Spoilers for Game of Thrones Season 7, Episode 5. This episode hurled so many left-field developments at us it was hard to keep track. Indeed, given that a bonkers plan to head north of the Wall, kidnap a zombie, and smuggle it into King's Landing was hatched, you'd be forgiven for missing a rather crucial hint among the plot chaos. One that could be vital to Game of Thrones' ultimate endgame. Sam certainly did, the one true king, while reading through old books and scrolls by candlelight, and innocently blurting out random facts at Sam. Gilly stumbled across a vital piece of information. A piece of information that Sam, caught up in his own thoughts and frustrations, completely failed to pick up on. Photo H. Bosky. The document Gilly found amid the bowel movement notes talked of Prince Rhaegar Targaryen having his marriage annulled, and then marrying another woman secretly in Dorne. That means the union between Rhaegar and Lyanna Stark was seemingly sanctified, which makes Jon Snow a legitimate child of the pair, and therefore the true ruler of the Seven Kingdoms. In other words, his own claim to the throne would supersede Daenerys, as he is the male heir of the male heir. That could make things between him and his auntie awkward, if they find out. Westeros has its very own superhero team meanwhile, and unsuspecting Jon, he still knows nothing, really has found himself leading his very own Magnificent Seven. Or Avengers. The King of the North couldn't take pleasure in the news of Bran and Arya's return. He had the army of dead marching on Eastwatch to contend with. As such, he decided he would lead a raid beyond the Wall in aid of Tyrion's rather harebrained scheme to capture a White. Photo H. Bosky. It seems a leap to think Cersei would work with them to counter the threat, even if she were convinced. After all, she's too far gone down her ruthless road, and isn't it the North immediately in harm's way still. At least it gave an excuse for Game of Thrones to get its very own superhero team together. Jon, Jorah, the Hound, Thoros, Beric, Tormund, and Gendry too. There were some teething problems at first. The Brotherhood sold Gendry down the river literally, and Jon even has Jorah's ancestral sword. Will he ask for it back? But as much as this season seems to be reveling in fan service, and as silly as their mission seems, you can't deny it is an exciting prospect seeing them all fight together. A surprise offer following the chaos of last week's ambush. Bronn and Jaime survived, and escaped. Bronn knows a losing fight when he sees it. And so does Jaime. Cersei seems to realize it too, but would rather fight and die than submit. Fortunately for her, she might not have to do either. Photo H. Bosky. Daenerys is offering to cease hostilities. But Cersei, while accepting the possibility, told Jaime they have to be clever. She'll break the ceasefire and attack Daenerys the first chance she gets. Interestingly, she told Jaime she was pregnant, in the same breath as hissing "never betray me again." Is she lying, and manipulating him in the process? Two brothers and a blacksmith. Tyrion sneaking into King's Landing to meet Jaime seemed ridiculously risky, thought it did at least give us several standout moments. It was the first time the two brothers had seen each other since Tyrion murdered their father, and things were understandably tense. Even if you could still sense their underlying love for one another. Photo H. Bosky. More thrilling, however, was the long-overdue return of Gendry. He's finally stopped rowing, Davos even winking to fans in acknowledgement of that long-running joke. Having got himself a mighty warhammer, and being rather handy with it, Gendry is truly his father's son. And he knows it. "My name's Gendry," he blurted out at Jon. "I'm Robert Baratheon's son." The two shared a lovely mirror moment of Ned and Robert's reunion in the very first episode of the saga. With Jon telling Gendry he was lean and Gendry telling the king in the north he's shorter. Daenerys the terrible. Tyrion's mood after the Field of Fire was somber. He had looked on as thousands of his countrymen were slaughtered. And now, he was forced to watch as Randyll and Dickon Tarly were burned alive by Daenerys, after they refused to bend the knee. Photo H. Bosky. The scene had real poignancy. The usually formidable Randyll humanized as he silently nodded at his son and gave him a way to survive. But Dickon refused. Whether she'd like to admit it or not, Daenerys is attempting to rule through fear. Most of the assembled men only knelt when Drogon roared. Daenerys claimed it is sometimes necessary to be terrible. But Varys and Tyrion were unnerved. The development at least adds some moral ambiguity to the equation. The Tarly family conundrum in burning his father and brother. Daenerys made Sam Tarly the equivalent of Ned Stark to her own father, who burned Ned's family. If she and Sam meet, it could make for a fascinating moment. Sam would be heir to Hornhill if he were not in the Night's Watch. He still has his father's Valyrian steel sword. And now, he has abandoned the Citadel to go and join the fight in the far north. Poignantly, he echoed his own father's words to him as he did so. "I'm tired of reading about the achievements of better men. A northern revolution. Sansa has the support of her rather fickle northern lords, who are beginning to turn on Jon, and threatening to crown her instead. She is standing by him for now, but Arya felt she wasn't forceful enough, and suspects Sansa would secretly like to rule. Photo H. Bosky. Littlefinger's spies, meanwhile, are everywhere, and he seemingly found a way this episode to unleash further chaos. He knew Arya was following him, and appeared to plant a mysterious letter to manipulate her emotions. What exactly it is, and whether it can somehow divide the two sisters, remains to be seen. Further talking points using Eastwatch as an episode title clearly evoked Hardhome. But after last week's explosive battle, there was no repeat action epic here. Sneaky. It was nice to see Jorah return to Daenerys, and get the most well-deserved cuddle in Westeros. Davos continues to provide strong comic relief this season. His attempts to win over King's Landing guards with the Game of Thrones equivalent of Viagra was priceless. We got another cameo from comedian Kevin Hildon as one of those guards. He previously played an actor in the Bravos Theatre Company. What Euron will think of the proposed ceasefire, the drowned god only knows. If he's asked to return Yara as part of the terms, he won't be happy. When Jon met Drogon for the first time, and the hulking creature allowed him to pet it, his secret Targaryen lineage was emphasized. Could he soon be riding a dragon himself? You can always rely on Tormund to sum things up neatly. Which queen? The one with the dragons, or the one who f's her brother? He was just disappointed Brienne wasn't along for their icy forthcoming adventure. The Hound knows Littlefinger betrayed Ned, but he is heading beyond the wall, not to Winterfell. If Jon finds out though, along with the Stark sisters, Littlefinger's days are numbered. Game of Thrones battle scenes are more realistic than you think. The best Game of Thrones characters. We never got to see what Game of Thrones' highest-rated episodes say about the show, and its fans. Everything you need to know about Littlefinger's dagger. We need to talk about Bronn. Episode 4 recap. Olenna Tyrell reminded us that Game of Thrones is more than just battles. The fantasy novels that could be the next Game of Thrones. Jon Snow's true identity hinted at. Episode 3 recap. How Game of Thrones helped the world embrace the Yorkshire accent. Euron becomes a villain to be reckoned with. Episode 2 recap. Game of Thrones bakery stops taking orders. Game of Thrones Season 7 5 instantly gripping talking points. Season 7 premiere review. A surprisingly restrained return. Game of Thrones quiz. Do you know more than Jon Snow? The bloody British history that inspired Game of Thrones.